Okay, pero mientras me curo, encuentro mi pasión.
Me encuentro yo misma.
I'm gonna fall back in love with myself.
And I'll be able to transform my pain into power.
I don't know how we'll do it, but we're doing it together.
We're your hosts of Mientras Me Curo podcast. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Genesis.
Welcome to your guide for healing beyond toxic ties.
Welcome back. This is episode 8. And today we're going to get into the passing of my sister.
Yeah. I love it because usually I'm the one that starts.
Yeah.
And like I kind of like am like, welcome back, mientras me curo.
Welcome back. And today I took the
You took the lead.
I did it myself.
Yeah. This episode is about loss and death.
Yes.
We're touching on, as we were kind of coming up with this episode, one thing that came to mind was like when we are in abusive relationships, toxic relationships, a lot of that is tied to the way that we grew up. Not saying that, I think you've mentioned, right, like with your parents, it wasn't toxic necessarily.
Not with me, at least.
But
actually, yes, it was. In my like teenage years, it was. But when I was a little girl, no.
Yeah. Like maybe it wasn't your relationship with your parents that were toxic, but if we have siblings, if we experience trauma, so what can predispose us, so something that can make us susceptible to or likely to be in unhealthy relationships are traumatic experiences. It could be like we were inappropriately touched. It could be some sort of trauma. It could be, so trauma is considered something like a sudden chaotic, dysregulating event. Some of that includes a sudden death, a huge change. So even if like something that could be like a small T, like a small trauma is like you up and end your whole life and like you have to move to a whole other place. That could be something that is traumatic. A trauma that we all experienced was COVID, the pandemic. That was traumatic because our lives changed drastically. So thinking about anything that changed drastically. So kind of, I want to give you the floor a little bit.
Yeah.
'Cause I know you shared some of what happened right before you met this individual.
Yeah.
So
So we can get into that.
Yeah.
So I grew up, and it was 3 of us. It's my older sister. Her name's Lisa. My brother, his name's Diego. And then there's me. And then, so the age difference, I don't know the gaps, but I know my brother and my sister weren't too far off on age. And then I'm the youngest, and I know there was a pretty big gap. I want to say it was like 7 years, if not a little more than that with my brother. And growing up, like my sister, like I remember my mom telling me when I was younger and I was in my mom's belly, she would always be so excited to like be a big sister, like to a little like girl. And my sister was welcoming me, happy as shit. And then my brother resented me. He's like, I don't want anybody in here anymore. Like, he's like, I don't want nobody. And then my mom would try to talk to my brother, but my brother was like, nah, like, I don't want her. Like, he was just big brother, mean big brother vibes. And so when I came into like the world, I don't remember like my very young ages, but I do have glimpses of like stuff that I went through and the stuff that I experienced and like seen in my household. I will say there's been like instances when I was younger where I'd see my parents like fighting with my sister or arguing with my sister at the time, but I didn't really like understand what was going on. I had no idea. I just remember like there's a vivid memory of like my mom crying and my sister leaving the house, and I didn't understand what was going on. I was too young to understand, but I also tried to block it because I was like, my sister's not in the house and she's pretty young, like where is she, you know? And so down the line, like I ended up growing up, I started seeing like more and more and more, and then I started seeing that my sister got into like a lifestyle that wasn't like ideal, you know, for a woman. And she developed like an addiction. I'm not going to disclose what it was to, or like her mental health issues or anything that she went through. But down the line, when she became addicted to that, like I remember like vividly, like my mom would be so worried about my sister because she upped and like moved over to Wisconsin. So when she moved to Wisconsin, she met somebody, obviously had a kid with them, and like I remember my mom going to Wisconsin for like a while. I didn't know why, but like I remember her leaving.
How old were you?
I don't remember, dude, but my niece
And trauma will do that to you.
yeah, like I don't remember the ages that I was, but I know that I remember my mom would be gone, and then my mom would go with my sister to take care of her because she was pregnant, but like I didn't really question anything. Like I took it. Like I was just like, okay, like I mean, it must be serious. Like my sister's needs my mom, so she'd go over there, and then I remember when she had her little girl, which my niece now she's 21, but she was like little baby. This little girl's a little demon child. Which I love her, but she's a little brat, bro. Like she was a dude, she beat me up, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like, I had to tolerate it. Like,
What's the difference in age between you and your niece?
My niece right now, she's 21, and I'm 20. I'll be 29 in a couple days.
So 8 years.
Yeah, and she would. Oh my god, dude! Like, I'd literally be sitting, and my sister would be braiding my hair, and my niece one day just like got mad. Like, I sensed like jealousy, that she had jealousy with like her mom and me, because of my sister and I were really, really close. When I tell you guys that my sister took care of me as a little girl, like she took care of me, and like she welcomed me in, like she was such a big sister, like such an amazing big sister. I remember, like, dude, like we'd be like eating Doritos at like 2 a.m, like with preparados and everything, and then like there'd be times where she showered me, and I'm like, dude, my mom's supposed to do this, where's my mom, you know? But she was taking that role on, and my mom was present, but my mom let her take that role because she knew how important it was for us to have like a really good relationship. And so she
was very maternal.
Yeah, my sister was really maternal to me, which I understand now. Like when she has a daughter and her daughter sees like the relationship I have with her mother, it can be like intimidating. Yeah. I get it. There's jealousy there. I get it. So that one time when she was braiding my hair, my sister used to braid our hairs like literally. You know how when you go to Mexico to the beaches and then they
do the
little trencitas? My sister would literally do that to me every single week. Every single week I had braids, and if I had them, her daughter had them, damn straight. Like, estábamos bien peinaditas until I got into like junior high and everything. And I remember one time she was braiding my hair, and my niece got mad that she was braiding my hair and not giving her attention. And she was literally like no older than 5. She was young. She was a baby. She comes and she pinches me straight in the forehead. Me minding my business, my sister's doing my hair, she comes and pinches my forehead, dude. And I'm just like crying hysterically, and my mom and my sister don't do anything to her because she's a kid, like she's a baby. Yeah. And they're like, oh, she didn't mean it. And I'm like, oh, like I can't wait till you get older, dude. Like I cannot wait. I don't think it's game on, you know. Like, and like I have a scar to this day, like it's here, like you have to look in like to see it, but I have it there. So when she was a baby, she was like super like, she was a brat. But the reason she was a brat is because my sister raised her with no rules. She always got yes, 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 yes. But she also at such a young age had to feed for herself at one point to like get to food, to take care of herself, to keep herself alive. And like, and I don't mean that like in a disrespectful way to my sister whatsoever, but it's just my sister wasn't mentally well. So, you know, unfortunately it spiraled down to the kids.
It's hard to be a mom.
It really is.
It's hard to be a parent. It's a constant, like as moms, because Michelle's a mom too. I don't know if you experience this, but it is a constant like battling with your own guilt, battling with your own womanhood. Like, I want to be there for my kid. Yeah. And then on top of that, you add an addiction, some ways that she was coping with whatever was happening internally for her. Like, it's tough.
I know she went through stuff as a kid. I know there's family issues going along left and right. I just don't know. I never really got to the age where I can talk to her about that because I was so young still. Because when she passed away, I was 18. And when I was 18, I didn't talk to her. I cut her off completely. I didn't want to talk to her anymore because I saw how bad she was hurting not only my parents, but hurting her kids too. And I was like, no, like, I don't want a relationship with somebody that's hurting my family and my loved ones. I was like, your kids are watching you, that like, you're watching your kids suffer. I was like, and I don't want them to feel that. Like, on top of them not having you, they don't have their father, their biological father either. And I'm just like, somebody needs to protect them. Somebody needs to protect them. And then so the way that I handled the whole situation with my sister was, at the time, or now I can tell you guys, like, do I regret, like, not speaking to her and like cutting her off completely, yes, I do. And that's something that I feel like I'm gonna have to live with the rest of my life, because I didn't realize how significant that impact was on me. Like we can go back to like I already talked about like the early stages with her, right? Like she was a very close person to me. Like anytime I got bullied, and like where was it, in freaking where were we, in elementary school or junior high, I remember, I don't know if one of those age groups, okay? She protected me like no other. I remember I was like feeling like no one can freaking touch me. My sister's gonna up for me. Like she was.
What was the age difference with you and your sister?
Well, it's a 13-year age gap. So when I tell you guys, homegirl defended me, she would defend me like no other. And same thing goes for my brother. He like my.
It also makes sense why she was such a mom to you.
Yeah, she would take care of me. She was the only person that I feel like if I went to her and I'm like, I need you to fuck this person up, go fuck him up right now, she wouldn't ask any contact. She'd go and take care of it for me. Like, she was that type of sister. She was a thug. I was like, she was gangster, bro. Everybody was scared of her. And I was like the sweet, innocent one that was scared of everybody. Like, and she wasn't like that. Like, and I admired that about her, that she was not scared of anybody. And I remember this vivid memory of me being, I don't know if it was junior high or elementary school, where I was getting bullied. And I was getting, you know how they said, like, when a guy's mean to you, it's because they like you? In junior high, I experienced that, or, like, freaking elementary school, whatever age group that was. And I was at the after-school program one time. And I was a fairly skinny girl. Like, I was literally skin and bones up until, like, 19, 20. And then when I tell you guys I was skin and bones, like the guys in elementary school and junior high would call me cardboard because I was flat chested and I didn't have like any like butt or any figure to me. And like now I'm like, y'all are fucking mean. That was really mean. That was rude. Like they've already apologized to it. Like, so I'm not gonna hold them to it anymore. Like we grew up obviously and they already apologized. But still, dude, that was messed up.
But still, we don't need to comment on anyone's body.
Yeah. And so they would call me that. And there was one time where my sister came and picked me up from the after-school program, and as we were leaving and driving off in her car, her windows were always lowered, the freaking music blasting. We're listening to Kings of Leon, Lana Del Rey, like we're listening to No Doubt, like some type of music that like she brought me on or put me on. And I remember like somebody said it, like we were about to drive off, and she's like, or one of the guys said, she's flat-chested or bi-flat-chested or something like that. Yeah. And my sister freaking puts the car in part or in reverse and she pulls back and she's like, what did you say? And then the kids just all stay quiet. And it was a group of guys, bro.
I love how when you're telling the story, like, with kids involved, you're
there
like,
kids.
Beep, what did you beep?
Yeah, I was like, my sister was all like, thug, bro. I was like, but I need to, like, it was like back in the day, you know? Yeah. So she'd be like, what did you effing say? And they just all stayed quiet. They didn't think my sister was going to react. She pulls over and she, like, tells them and yells at them from the car. She's like, I can have you guys, like, I can put a report on you guys for sexually assaulting her. I was like, for freaking bullying her about her body. She's a kid. She's like, she's not even 12 years old and you guys are freaking criticizing her for not having boobs. She's like, that is so messed up. And she's like, and then she goes and tells the program, like, the staff right there. She's like, why aren't you freaking taking care of these kids for them to be saying those things to my sister?
Maybe it was your sister who taught you how to be a girl's girl.
Huh. Yeah. Imagine. Oh, that's so cute. I love that. That's so cute.
That's such a cute reframe, huh? Because it was.
Yeah.
She was defending you.
Yeah. And so when she did that, I was just like, damn, that's my sister, bro. I was like, that's my sister. And when I drove home, I felt all happy, although I was like kind of like sad when it happened. She defended me and I'm like, that's right. And did they ever do it again after? Yes, but like, you know.
Yeah, but you're like.
But it's still.
You want my sister to report you?
I was like, I'll bring her right now. And so like, she defended me as a kid a lot, always.
You had a lot of positive memories.
I did as a kid.
When did it switch for you?
When I got into, when my niece, I want to say like when I was around 13, 14, she like moved out and there was like an incident too where my mom had to go get her from Wisconsin and bring her to California to come live with us because she was pregnant again. But I didn't think anything of it. Like, my mom's like, oh, like, I need to take care of her. Like, she gets bad when she's pregnant. but I didn't think anything
Well,
of it.
you were 13.
Yeah, I
Like,
was a kid.
What you understood was what you saw and what you felt.
Yeah, so I didn't know. I didn't know any context behind it. Excuse me. So when she showed up, I was just like happy to have my sister around again. And then she had this baby, and this baby is my nephew now. I don't recall how old he is. I think he's going to be 16 this year. He's not even a little kid anymore, bro. He's taller than me already. But when I remember, like, she gave birth to him the first time that I held him, like, I didn't get to experience that with my niece. And I feel like if I would have experienced that with my niece, like, I felt like I would have been closer to her as a kid. I would have been a lot closer. But I got to experience my nephew, like, as a baby, you know, and like, I remember he'd always cry in my arms every single time I'd hold him. And I remember one time, I'm like, you know what? You have no freaking choice. Me vas a querer porque me vas a querer a huevo. Like, you have no choice. So either you keep crying or I'm gonna cry too. Like, what you want? And so I made that fool love me. And then, so now, seeing them grow up, and they literally had every reason, same thing, to go like and spiral and go downhill when it came down to like the circumstances they were given or the life they were given. They had every reason to turn around and be like, I'm sorry to say it, but like, they would have been on the streets, and they didn't, and they're like thriving, both of them. I'm so proud of them. So the whole thing happened, and it's like, bring me back.
Your nephew was born.
My nephew was born.
You were around.
Also,
13
when
years,
it changed,
when it shifted for you.
For her is like with my nephew. I think I was like 15, where like a very bad incident, 13, 14, where an incident happened and it spiraled. It was a big issue. And then it calmed down for a little bit, and another issue arose again. And so it was like a little cycle going on there again.
When you say issues, are these like really like, I'm thinking, were they kind of like episodes where she was erratic?
Not even erratic, but she was like relapsing. She was relapsing again. And it would happen so often. And then one thing led to another, where like this last one, unfortunately, like there's some circumstances where the kids had to live with us at that point, and we had to take them in.
Amiga, I'm sorry. I'm like, this was also my experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And because I really want to like validate that confusion maybe of like, this is my sister, I love her, and why are you hurting us?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that was really hard for me to navigate.
Behavior is hurting us.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing how it affects your kids. I'm seeing how it affects our mom.
And that's how I took it.
And it makes sense because you said, like, I regret not talking to her. And at the same time, when you experience that, like, it makes sense for you to be mad at her.
Yeah.
You were a kid,
really
too.
mad. I was mad.
You didn't understand.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand even now at our age. Now we can understand why someone would be addicted to something like like all of these. But when you're a kid, like, you're just like, dude, I just want peace. I just want
that's
harmony.
all I wanted. I was like, I wanted my family together again. Overall, that's all I wanted. Like, I wanted a regular, happy family. And then, like, I saw her not being able to provide that to her kids, and, like, her kids being with us. And then I had to navigate that, where I was like, how do I keep this relationship with you when you keep hurting everybody that I love? And I was like, and I don't want to see my parents cry. I don't want to see my niece and nephew cry, let alone my brother. I was like, hurt me all you want. Hurt me all you want. Like, I'll take it all day for my family. But when it comes to my parents and I see them, like, being hurt, like, that's... Like,
they didn't ask for this.
They didn't. And, like,
your
I
kids
will say...
didn't ask for this.
My parents were a very young age when they had kids, and they blamed themselves a lot for everything that happened to my sister. And I remember, like, taking the lead. The day that I found out she passed away was actually... It's pretty fucked up. My sister passed away on November 27th in 2013. That's Thanksgiving Day. Also my dad's birthday. So it was just like a double whammy.
My dad's birthday is literally November.
We were supposed to be friends, huh? We were supposed to be freaking friends. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
He literally has a Thanksgiving birthday too.
Yeah? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I remember, like, I was dating somebody at the time. I was 18 when she passed away. I was dating somebody else. And then I remember my mom, like, I had woken up and it was like 8 in the morning. And I just hear a lot of rumbling and yelling and, like, crying hysterically. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And I go outside and I just see my mom, like, outside in the front yard yelling, crying. And I'm just like, dude, what is going on? Why didn't anybody wake me up? What is wrong? Like, what's going on? My mind didn't go to that. Like, my mind didn't go there because, like, I had stopped talking to her for so many years. And I want to say I stopped talking to her for, like, a good 4 to, if not more years, if not more. And I ignored her. And the reason I cut her off completely is because there was one day where she showed up and she was, like, on her stuff. And I remember, like, yelling at her, trying to get her to hear me, but she wasn't coherent. And I kept telling her, I was like, dude, like, you're doing this here. I was like, your kids live here. I was like, don't do this to them. I was like, don't. I was like, I was in protector mode. Like, my first thing was my niece and nephew. I was like, fuck that. Like, they on top of them not having their dad and their mom, like, I don't want them to see that. Like, that's fucked up, you know? And so I remember telling her, like, you know what? Like, this isn't fucking fair. I was like, don't do this to them. I was like, do it to me all you want. That's fine. But my niece and nephew, like, that's off limits. And that day is a day that I decided, I was like, I don't want you in my life anymore. I was like, you're hurting everybody. You're hurting everybody that I love. And that's not fair to my parents, dude, because, like, I know my parents aren't perfect. No parent is perfect. Every parent makes mistakes. And I know my parents were very young when they had her. And I always, like, I remember the first day when we processed everything, like, I still went out about my day. I didn't even cry the first day. I didn't cry. I went off and I, like, went to dinner with the person that I was dating. Like, I went to their family party and, like, we went to go eat and everything. And then he's like, oh, like, how's your day? And I was like, well, my sister, I just found out that she passed away. And he just didn't know how to, like, handle that because I just dropped a bomb on Thanksgiving and I'm with him to go see his family. Like, he's like, shouldn't you be with your family? I was like, no, I didn't even talk to her. I'm good.
Because maybe for so long you took on, like, you had to detach from it, right? Even as you share, like, it was like you're hurting other people and at the same time she hurt you. Like, you were close to her. You were BFFs. And then in the same breath, it was probably the person that you at one point hated the most.
Yeah.
Because of all the pain.
All the pain she was causing my family.
And you.
Yeah. When I went to Thanksgiving to his family, like, I was very, like, nothing happened. Nothing just happened. My sister just passed away.
It was a shock.
I was in shock. I was just, nothing happened. I hadn't cried yet. I showed up with my parents later to go eat dinner with them. And we were like, I saw my dad, like, he was broken. And then I saw my mom and she was broken, but we had to continue on because it was Thanksgiving, you know? And then my best friend tells me that this happened and I don't remember this happening. So I'm pretty sure it's like a trauma block that I have because I don't remember this. But my best friend lived down the street from me at the time. I literally, like, 2 blocks away. And I don't remember. This is what she's telling me, sorry. I told her, I was like, I just disassociated. She's like, no, you didn't. And I was like, what? What do you mean? I was like, yeah, like, I didn't even cry. She's like, Andrea, like, the day that it happened, you called me and ran to my house crying hysterically. She's like, you don't, like, remember that? And I was like, no. I don't remember that. And she's like, no, dude, like, that really happened. You came and you were like, you were crying a lot. Like, a lot. The same time you found out you came. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I like, blanked. I don't remember that. Even me bringing it up right now, it doesn't jog anything. Like, it doesn't. And so there's that. Like, I blocked it out. And then, like, I went on with my day. I still was in shock. I continued like nothing happened. And then, like, I don't know when I think it hit me at the funeral. The viewing and the funeral. I spoke at the viewing, and then I also, like, I think the last part was for me was like when I saw her getting buried. I was like, fuck, like, it's just my brother and I now, you know? And I was like, damn, like, 3 of us, and now it's just 2 of us. And I wasn't really close to my brother like that. Like, I was when I was younger, but, like, I feel like my brother and my sister, as they got older, they grew a closer bond than I did with them because I was the youngest and I didn't really understand things, you know? Like, I wasn't an adult yet. And my brother never really gave up on her. He never gave up on her. And then I did because I was pissed. I was really mad.
It's hard because you, like, as a kid, as a teen, you realize, like, I can't control, especially someone that is relapsing, someone in addiction. You can't control what they're doing, and there is a sense of powerlessness, and all you can control is how you respond to them.
Exactly.
And for you, it was like, the only control I have is to distance myself,
Yeah, I
is
was
to
like,
cut
them
that
off.
tie.
Yeah.
Maybe
because
for your brother, it was
just,
like,
yeah, no, my brother
else.
wouldn't.
But
He
it's like
wouldn't.
an endless loop.
It was. It really was for us. And I, like, even years down the line, like, my mom still blamed herself. My dad blamed himself. And I kept trying to tell them, like, hey, like, this isn't, like, your control. Like, look at me, okay? Like, I went through a really traumatic thing as a kid. Like, and I'm not trying to discredit myself or minimize what she did or anything like that. But it's just, like, we do have a choice. Like, we have a choice to either, like, make our life, like, what we want it to be, or we spiral and we just, like, unfortunately don't make it. And when she passed away, it hurt me, but I was just like, okay, she's no longer suffering. I was like, 'cause she was suffering a lot. And up to my knowledge, like, there's a lot of things that were obviously, I still don't know to this day, but when that event happened, like, I was pretty shocked. When I went to therapy and I brought it up to them, I was like, oh, but I'm over it. They're like, no, I don't think you're over it. Like, I don't think you ever actually, like, overcame it or even went through it. She's like, because what it sounds like, she's like, it sounds like you have a trauma block. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you don't remember anything of that day. I was like, well, I just remember my mom, and then the rest is like, I just went to, like, the Thanksgiving dinner. And she's all like, yeah, but your friends are telling you otherwise. And I was like, okay, so I probably had, like, an out-of-body experience at one point. Who knows? So with that, down the line, I mean, when more time passed by, my niece and nephew started getting older, growing. It's to the point now where they're, like, adults, full adults. Well, my nephew's only going to be 16, and then my niece is 21. My niece right now is engaged. She's about to get married. She's a super, like, religious person, and I love that for her. I'm so proud of her because, like I said, like, she had every reason. Like, she didn't have any parent growing up. She just had her mom, and she lost her, and she had every reason to turn downhill. But homegirl, like, she made it out, and I'm proud of her. Like, she's a cheerleader. I never once thought my niece would have been a cheerleader. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, hey, like, do you think your niece is going to be a cheerleader in high school? I'm like, no. She was. She's a pretty little girl. Pretty girl. Nobody thought, because she was, like, a little, like, tomboy. She was a big tomboy. And then my nephew now, he's super athletic. Like, it's cool to see these kids, like, seeing them grow up. And, like, I don't see them as my niece and nephew anymore. Like, they're an extra pair of siblings for me, and I'm very appreciative that I worked out, like, having that with them. But yeah.
So after she passed, if you were 18, what was, because I think you met that individual a little bit right after.
At 19.
Yeah. And interestingly, like, we unintentionally recreate patterns if we haven't processed trauma. So a lot of, like, even if we think about, like, when you're a child, if you experience some sort of unwanted touch, some sort of any of that, research does show that individuals that were abused sexually in some way, physically abused, will end up being perpetrators of that, or will continue to be in that cycle themselves. So, like, we do see, like, women and men might then take on, like, have a lot of partners, or, like, be very, like, sexual themselves, because we start to unintentionally recreate these patterns because that's familiar.
Yeah.
And as you talk about your sister a little bit, maybe the relapsing and all of that, I wonder if that feels like it connects with the individual then you dated.
Yeah, it does, because I remember with one time, like, and this is the time that I wasn't speaking to my sister, but there's one time my mom tried taking her to, like, a rehab, and I remember going with my mom strictly to support my mom. I didn't talk to my sister. I didn't say hi to her. She was in the back seat, and I was in the passenger seat, and my mom was driving, and it was like 10 or 9 p.m., and I was going with her. It was somewhere in Santa Ana. And then, like, I remember just being there, and I'm just like, Mom, like, I need you to understand this is for you. This isn't for her. I was like, I know you need support. Like, I know my dad's not on board with anything that you're doing. He's not supportive of you, but I want you to know, like, you have my support. Whatever it is, I was like, no matter if she hurts you, like, I'm here for you. And so I'd go with her, and I remember when she dropped her off the next morning, we find out, or like a day after, I don't remember the time frame exactly, but she had left the rehab. And it's just like, to me, it's like I would always tell my mom, I was like, Mom, like, you can lead her in the right direction as many times as you want. I was like,
People
but
aren't
no
going to
matter-
change unless they want to change.
unless they want to change. And that's something that I experienced with my partner, my ex-partner, because he was an alcoholic. And I experienced the stuff that I experienced with my sister that I didn't experience with my sister, because I closed that off and I let my mom deal with all of that, is the experience that I got with my ex. So all the stuff that I went through, like, I tell my mom, and my mom would be like, Andrea, like, there's no hope. They'll tell you that.
Do you remember the episode when I said that we will, if we want to understand why we date certain people, we have to look at our relationship? I said specifically parents and our relationship with our siblings too, or our family.
Yeah. So it just ties up to that.
Yeah.
It does, because I also remember there is a time where my ex-partner had got a rehab, and he was in rehab, and I picked him up drunk one time from rehab, dude. From freaking rehab. And I, like, remember being so mad. I'm like, how did you even manage? Like, oh, we all do it in here. And I'm just like, dude, like, you're down bad. You're down bad. Like, you need help. You need so much more help than just this.
Do you feel like you were trying to save him because you couldn't save your sister?
Yeah, I can tell you that 100%. That's exactly what it was. And I think it did take me to leave that relationship for me to realize it, because when I went to therapy and I told them all this, they're like, okay, like, there's a connection. And I was like, yeah, like, I see it. Like, I probably, because I didn't do that effort for my sister, I probably gave that effort to him. And then I saw both sides. It's like my mom gave effort and it didn't work for her, and I ignored the situation, and, like, it went downhill instead.
And it really just goes to show that, like, at the end of the day, as much as when we talk about potential, the potential that we see,
It's
and, like,
not
how we want to fix
realistic.
it, at, like, people are not going to change unless they want to change, because we can't. And it's a number one thing too, as therapists too, we have, like, it's hard. People ask me, like, how are you a therapist, like, to sit with people's, like, feelings and all their trauma? At the end of the day, like, there's only so much in our control. Like, we're not here to save people, because we could be putting in 80% of the work, and if they're not trying at all, then they're
It's
not,
like,
nothing's gonna happen.
It's that one saying. Let me look it up. Hold on, keep it going.
Yeah. Now that I'm on the spot, I don't know what to say.
My apologies.
No, but it's very much, and maybe that's the illusion that we fall under, is, like, the potential that we see in other people, how we want to try to fix people, and our job is, our first and foremost, we are only in control of ourselves.
Yeah.
The thing that we can control the most is not how someone else responds, but how we respond to someone else.
Yeah.
And, like, even you said something that kind of stood out to me, which was, like, you responded, the effort that you were giving your ex was, like, the effort that you didn't give your sister. And
I think what I try to do is, like, okay, well, maybe if I do it for him, it'll end differently for him.
And the whole time, though, you couldn't, like, that was not your effort to
It wasn't in my control. And I always,
for either of them.
Yeah, for either of them. And I know that now, because I experienced both ways.
Yeah.
So, like, the saying that I was looking up was you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. And I remember when I was in that relationship, I kept telling him that. I was like, no matter how much I want to help you, no matter how much I want to get you out of these things, I was like, at the end of the day, it's you. It's a you issue. I was like, it's no longer me. I was like, because I'm giving you all the support, all the resources. I'm looking up lawyers. I'm looking up rehab facilities. I'm looking at, like, things for your car so you don't drink and drive anymore. Like, there's so many things that I'm, like, trying to provide, and I give you it. But at the end of the day, you have to make that decision. Like, I can't call them and set it up for you. Like, and that's what happened with the whole therapy thing too. When I was looking for therapists for that individual, why am I looking for it? First off, I'm looking for I don't mind going for the couples therapy and me looking for a couples therapist, and then my own individual therapist, and that person look for their therapist. I think that's okay. I can do that. But it's like for me to be looking for therapy for an individual that's not even taking it serious after so many hit and runs, after so many DUIs, after jail time, rehab, all the things that that person did, the drinking never stopped. And I can tell you right now, it hasn't stopped. There's just, it's just when that person is in that cycle, again, you can
when they're ready to change.
It's only when they're ready to change. Until they hit rock bottom is when, if they want to change, they're going to do it.
And the thing about these patterns and behavior like this is that it serves us to some extent. Like it serves us to, if we think that we are a bad person, or we're just an addict, we're going to be acting in line with that. Mm-hmm. And so it's easier in some ways. It's comfortable to stay in the addiction.
Yeah. So I do want to say, though, because there was one time where I had told one of this individual's friends that this person had an addiction, that they had an addiction to alcohol. I remember the friend telling me, like, oh, well, like, I don't want to say that because it doesn't define him. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, what? He's like, yeah, like, we can't say that, like, that's
See,
him.
this is when these things are twisted.
Yeah.
Because label, like, this is like, I feel like it goes back to gaslighting, right?
Yeah.
Like, or manipulation.
Well, it's just like, they don't see it. They're like, oh, he's far more than that. I was like, okay, like, I'll let you guys think that. But, like, realistically, like, alcohol has defined him. Like, that's the thing. Like, it has overcame
like,
him.
maybe you don't understand how much this person drinks or how much
I want to bring up, like,
dictated.
a story. Mm-hmm. Because I do have one, actually, that just happened. I don't think it actually just happened. It happened towards the end of our breaking point. Woman intuition, girls. What can I say? Like, that thing's, like, phenomenal. I don't know what to tell you. But this man just up and run, left the house, and got a hotel room. Lived out of a hotel room for a week. Drinking himself alive, or drinking himself to death, basically, in the freaking what's that called, the hotel. And I remember I had got his I don't even know how I found him, but I found him. I didn't have his location. I just know I knew cross streets because his mom told me, and I was like, there's so many, like, barely any hotels right there, let me go check. Yeah, well, she said that she picked him up during, like, some cross streets and stuff, at some certain cross streets. So I started doing my math, and I started looking at all the, like, the stuff that were surrounding, and I went and I found his car. And sure enough, when I had the spare key to the car, so I took the car. And I took the car, and then I found condoms in his car. I'm like, excuse you, alcohol in his car. And I was like, damn, dude, like, you're spiraling, and you're spiraling bad. And he went on a bender. And when I tell you guys he goes on benders, he doesn't just go on 1 day benders. He's going, like, he's done at least like a week and a half to 2 weeks. Like, he's done bad to the point where he's drinking outside with homeless people, like, drinking with them. Like, he has problems. Like, he really has, like, some underlying issues that he has not gotten to.
And the only person that saw that was you. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for his friends to defend him. It's easy for the women that he's just met to be like, you're the crazy one,
I'm the problem,
right?
Like,
you're the
and
problem.
This recently happened where I got told that I'm the issue, that I, like, these girls, when they told me everything, they're telling me that he made it seem like I was a psychotic one, that I was a crazy one, that I was the one that was tripping all the time.
Shifting the blame. I've literally heard it so many times.
Shifting the blame on me for everything. And then when these girls found out what really had happened, they're like, dude, he made me feel so sorry for him because of the way you treated him. I was like, I didn't even treat him in any way, bro. Like, he'd get home and he'd have food. Like, what does he mean I treated him like shit? Like,
which is something we haven't talked about. It's victim mentality.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna come.
Me.
Yeah.
This is happening to me. I don't know if you, if, like, that was a pattern with your sister. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
What?
And when she would be when she would relapse, or even like taking her to rehab. I don't know if that was something that she would mention, like, oh, like I'm going through this, or I'm
No,
experiencing
she
this.
never did
Okay.
anything. Like, she just felt defeated. She didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
He was just like very like, I'm fighting demons, like I'm doing this, I'll go to therapy, I'll do this. And it's just like, it never got any better. It never got it. If anything, the relapses started, or the benders started getting longer and longer and longer. And I remember I had to get his friends involved at one point, because I was like, I don't want to see him. I was like, because when he's drunk, he says some fucking vulgar ass shit. And he says some nasty things. Like, and I remember walking in, and there was one time where he told me, or he saw me and his friends came in. Like, oh, party. He's like, party's here. He's like, what are you guys doing here? But he was drunk. And then he looked at his friends, like, where the bitch is at? And then, like, in front of me, and I just looked at him, and I was just like, I just have to take this shit, I guess. And he's like, where they at? He's like, where they at? With all his friends. And I'm standing there, and he's just drunk, and he looks at me, and he just starts laughing at my face. And he would do that stuff all the time.
What did his friends do?
They would just try to, like, change the topic. But, like, they saw the way that they would talk to me, and that he would talk to me, and I'm just like, and you guys still associate yourself with somebody like that. I was like, if I'm telling you guys, and I'm coming out with a podcast like this, like, showing, like, what I went through, everything, and I'm telling you, some of that individuals, like, friends, like, a couple of them messaged me saying that he made it seem that I was the psychotic one and the crazy one. That this was never, like, they never would have thought that he was doing this behind closed doors. And I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, he was so good at painting a really good picture of what he wanted people to see, because a lot of people respect him.
And I think, as like, even as we hear this, I really want to call in certain, like, individuals that if you hear someone so easily talk about their partner, disrespect their partner, and you're not questioning, and like, I don't want to say sweeping under the rug, but almost like
ignoring it.
Like,
they're ignoring
dismissing it, like, oh, okay, she's psychotic. Like, like, we need to use a little bit more of our, like, self-awareness and our, like, brains a little bit, you know, to really, like, it's so easy to dismiss this stuff, but it's just like, it's wild to me, like, that we don't question this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because at one point there's a common denominator.
Yeah. And so when I got those DMs, I was just like, yep, he's really good at that. He's really good at creating a really good narrative that you guys are going to buy. Of course he's going to make it seem like I was a psychotic one. Of course he's going to make it seem like I was the one that was dodging the divorce papers. Of course he was telling these girls that I was the one trying to make it work, that I was making him pay my bills after we left and we separated. He says she's making me pay the bills. Like, I just have to keep her happy and take her to dinners and do all this crap and all this crap. And I'm like, what? Like, bro, if I wanted to, like, I'm not even gonna go there, but it's just like, when I hear these things, it pisses me off. I will not lie to you. It pisses me off because he's giving a narrative that's, like, so inaccurate. So inaccurate. And it's just like, but at the same time, like, I'm learning to tell, like, the people that tell me about him that not to tell me anything. I don't care to know what that man's narrative is, because realistically, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of things that person's going to leave out. And they're not going to talk about the stuff they did to me behind closed doors. They're not going to talk about the trauma that they left me with. They're not going to talk about the stuff they constantly, like, put me through on a daily basis. They're not going to talk about it.
Well, if you have someone, the thing with addiction, and addiction can be with anything. It can be with, it's not specifically alcohol. It could also be with substances. It can be working out is an addiction. Sex is an addiction. Like, too much of something is addicting, especially if it raises your dopamine levels, like that high that you get, which, like, alcohol gives us, smoking gives us, all of that stuff. When someone is doing that, what they're doing is is something specific, like alcohol. It's a depressant. It's a detacher. It's I don't have to think about stuff. So he's never addressing anything.
Yeah, no, there's this one last story that I want to share. And the reason I'm sharing this is because it was his depressive side coming out when that happened. When that person would drink, it happened a couple times where he would drink and I would be like, oh, I'm done. Like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. That person would literally throw out the fact that they would try to hurt themselves if I left. So if you guys ever questioned why I never left, there's a lot of guilt in that. There's a lot of guilt because there's always that what if. And yeah, it's manipulation. It is. And I remember the person that like that I'm dating right now, we had this conversation in regards to like, why didn't I just leave? And I was like, well, they would do this, this, and this. And they're like, well, I understand that, but that's not your fault. And I was like, I get what you mean, but like being
especially when you have the
thing
loss
with
of
my
your sister.
Yeah, the guilt that I have from that. And I don't feel guilty anymore. Like, I will tell you guys, I feel like although like I tell you, like I didn't really like process those emotions very well. I do want to say I'm in a place where like with her, I'm not mad at her. I'm not sad about it. I understand, like, she had her own choice. That's a choice she made, unfortunately. But at the same time, like, I see these little kids, and I'm like, it's a blessing, like, that we got to experience these kids grow up. I saw, like, them as my second pair of siblings, you know? And it's like, the house feels so much more full when they're there, and it's like, when they're not there, I'm just like, where's everybody at? I was like, I want my niece and nephew back, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I remember like that individual would do those things, I'd always like the day after when he was like coming down from his stuff, what is it called? Their detox. When they were going through the detox, I'd remember I'd tell him, I'm like, hey, like.
Also, detoxing from alcohol is like really,
especially if you do it for like a week straight, bro.
It's kind of, yeah.
A week straight.
I've heard that it's very, it can be very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably it's difficult. I do like
the day that they relapse, they're very much like, I'll do anything. I'll sign up for anything, any courses, anything. You give them the resources, and the resources are there for like another 2 to 3 months. They end up in the trash. And then they just do it all over again. Mm-hmm. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, but they just, I don't know. It's hard to deal with somebody
it does take a level of inner strength if you struggle with an addiction like alcohol to detox, because your body feels it physiologically.
And
yeah.
So when
they were detoxing.
And when they detox, they tell me all the things that they want to do. Like, I need to move. We need to move somewhere. We need to go do this. We need to go do this. Let's go to therapy. I'm going to go to therapy. I want to go do these classes. We can move out of the state. Let's go do this. And I'm like, okay, like, hold. Like, because you're telling me all these things. It sounds beautiful. It sounds amazing. But are you actually going to do it? Because you've told me this for 9+ times that you have, or that you are. And so obviously, I mean, that person never, like, he got help, but it just
didn't stick. Maybe
it didn't stick. It never stuck. And unfortunately, like, who knows? I don't know what to tell you other than, like, I see it because I tried both ways. Well, I tried my sister, I cut her off, it didn't work. I tried with this one, I gave him effort, it didn't work. And the whole thing just goes to show, it's like, I have no control over their actions. If they, and like, it goes to, like, not even just the addiction, it goes to cheating as well. It goes to relationships, family dynamics. But I am big on, like, back then, I used to be such a control freak when it came down to him cheating on me. I want your location. I want your phone password. I want your Instagram. I want everything. I want it all. And then I wanted it all, but even if I had it all, that fool was still doing it. And so, like, obviously now that I'm healed and I'm like, I went to therapy, I'm realizing, like, if that guy or that person that I am with wants to cheat on me, they're going to cheat. And then I have no control over what they do with that. And the same thing goes with the whole addiction. If they want to drink and I'm not there to try to, like, help them and be their backbone, like, they're going to do it. Like, I have no control over anybody else's actions other than mine. And so when I noticed that, like, I was just kind of, I felt, I don't want to say defeated, because I didn't feel defeated. I just felt like, okay, like, I learned my lesson, and clearly, like, I can lead this person to water, but I can't make them drink it. And it's
There's
like,
maybe a sense of liberation.
Yeah, and I will end with the whole addiction thing, saying that if you're suffering from that stuff, there's a lot of resources that there is available to us, a lot. And it's like, if you guys need them, like, you can talk to me. I don't mind providing resources. Like, I'm very big on that stuff now.
I have a list on deck.
We got it all, so please. But then also, like, what I always told that individual, and this goes to anybody battling any type of addiction, it's either gonna consume you, or you're gonna make that shit, like, and you're gonna make it out. So you're either gonna be 6 feet under or 6 feet up. So
and people want to help.
a lot of people
Like,
want to
you'll be
help.
surprised that
Yeah.
like people do want to help, as much as it's easy to lean into the darkness, because I think that that's what happens when we feel addicted to something. The like ugliness or the darkness that an addiction is, it's easy. It's kind of easy to go that path. It's so much harder, and the true resiliency, the true strength comes in, and people want to believe in you. People want to help you. They want to support you, even though we might feel so ashamed, right? Like, we have an addiction, but you're like, I imagine if your sister was ready and she was just like, yeah, like, your family would have been
Moving
on
like heaven and earth for
on
her.
deck. Exactly.
Everything for her.
That support would have been there. Like, and maybe that's what keeps a lot of people that are addicted away, is they think, I feel so ashamed. I'm such a bad person. I keep doing this. I keep hurting people. We stay in that narrative, and
It's so easy to consume
people
themselves
want to
with that.
exactly. And if you just like allow people to genuinely be there for you, like, you're already showing up ugly. Keep showing up ugly, but do
better.
But you're doing better, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're like, also,
Your ultimate
people
goal,
care and love you.
Like, your ultimate goal in life should not be to be like, I don't even know how to say that. I don't want to say like making. No, I'm not gonna say it. Never mind. It's gonna come out wrong.
Yeah, when we're hurt people.
Yeah.
And maybe that sums it up. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Like, because I feel like I know what you were getting at.
Yeah.
And it's easy to stay in that cycle, and it's so much harder to like go somewhere different. And at the same time, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah,
you
you
really,
don't.
really do not.
You don't.
Like, people want to help, people want to support, people want to love you into
Like, imagine
changing.
what I did for this man for the
Yeah.
9 years.
As much as he hurt you, right?
And no matter
Like,
how many times he hurt me and he was battling his addiction, like, I always came through with support when it came down to that stuff. And it's like I was picking him up from freaking I don't even want to say the words, but like, I
Yeah,
was picking
just
him up from locations left and right and like, keep in mind, like, this person didn't have anything when I first met them. They didn't even have a car. I was driving them to A and B for their job. I did a lot for that individual because
and you
like
were one person.
and I'm only, and trust me, I
Imagine.
tried gathering so many people to try to help this individual. Like,
But
I
that
tried it
takes-
all.
But that takes that person.
And it's like, at
to
the end
show
of the
that
day,
effort.
it's that person. Like,
Yeah.
I've tried holding interventions. Like, I tried doing it
Yeah.
all. And I said, you know what? At the end of the day, like, I can't do anything for them anymore. Like, at this point, it's out of my hands. You drop the ball. That's on you. If that's what you want and you want to seek and completely keep going on benders like this, then so do it. Like, I couldn't live with that anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So
At the
that's
end of the
basically-
day, like, at the end of the day, it's not too late.
Yeah, it's not. So don't get discouraged about that either, because
Yeah.
there's never too late to find like
You
help,
can always
change
make
your
up-
life, do
Yeah.
a 360. It's
Yes,
possible. It really is
yes.
possible. I've seen
so
people
much
do
can
it.
happen in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months, like so much. And yeah.
So with that being said,
Thank you for listening to
no, I was gonna say
with
sending
that
them so
being
much
said-
love.
Oh, sorry.
We're sending you so much. She's just trying to cut everybody off as of lately, bro.
Never. I'm not gonna say anything.
I love you. You did good today, amiga. You did
did
really
amazing.
good. I'm so proud of you. It's like there's usually times where like, Jen, let me talk.
Yeah, and I listen.
You listen.
And I
You
do
did
better.
amazing, amiga. You did great. But with that being said, we're gonna close this off.
Yes, we're sending you so much
So much love, hugs. If you guys need anybody to talk to, please reach out. I appreciate friends. I like having girlfriends, friends in general. I'm open to that. But yeah, thank you so much for
Listening to
Mientras Me Curo podcast. See you next week.